After reading so many books in a row with rather minimal to no humor, I was kind of tired and wanted to read something funnier for a change. So I decided to try The Witchstone by Henry H. Neff. The story is set in a modern universe, although in a world where demons not only exist, they actually live among us. Like they have different companies and jobs and organizations that somehow fit into the hierarchy of hell, whose business it is to generate as much human despair as possible because it is a major source of demonic power. So the main demon character of this story is Laszlo, who happens to be one of the laziest demons in existence. Like he generally spends his time avoiding doing any actual work. His job, however, is to be a curse keeper. So curse keepers are part of a demonic organization that oversees how curses play out. So for instance, when someone lays a curse on a human family, the demon gets like these set of files that includes stuff like the terms of the curse, the materials you would need in order to break the curse, rituals that would need to be performed, and just general information about the curse. And then the demon is supposed to oversee how things happen and to try in whatever way they can to make the bearers of the curse as unhappy as possible, in order to generate more misery and despair. So Laszlo is in charge of a very, technically what's considered a pretty good curse on a family called the Drakeford, who are destined to turn into monsters over time. Like the exact when it starts to happen varies, but usually by the time they become adults, like in their 40s for instance, they actually don't even resemble human beings anymore, though the exact nature of how that happens is not always the same. And everything started with an ancestor who burned a witch. Like the curse came from her. So it's a pretty decent curse as curses go from like the demon's point of view, and he thinks it hasn't really required any managing, so he's pretty much shirked that responsibility. Unfortunately for Laszlo, his branch has recently gotten new management, and his new boss is an extreme go-getter. Like he's cleaning out the riffraff, I guess, in their branch. So Laszlo is threatened with being melted down into ooze if he is not able to somehow prove that he is worth keeping around as a curse keeper. Like he has to show that he can actually be really good at his job. So Laszlo starts to try to make plans in order to save his own skin. The main character of this story is Maggie. So she is currently 19 and one of the Drakefords who is experiencing the curse. So her family consists of her younger brother, her mom, and her dad. Like at this point, her dad is already so far gone that he can't move around on his own anymore. And there's a lot of anger in her, I guess, because the townspeople that they live beside, I guess, treat them extremely badly. And when Maggie learns from Laszlo that there might be even a slim hope of somehow breaking this curse, she sets out on a journey to try to locate the right materials and to figure out what they can do in order to make this happen, both to save herself and save the rest of her family, like her father and her younger brother. And this story follows like Laszlo, Maggie, and her younger brother who comes along with them, called George, through their adventure pretty much all around the world, hunting for different materials and trying to get, I guess, the right instructions and stuff in order to break the spell. Although, of course, she doesn't trust Laszlo and really shouldn't, all considered. But still, they kind of build a sort of friendship, I guess, over the course of this story. And I will say that I think it ends well, so just a note, I guess, for people like me who don't like bad endings. Something I liked. So I appreciated how even though there were like really dangerous situations, like times when they got cornered by monsters and things like that, the story handled most of these events in a way that wasn't overly stressful. Like things worked out often in somewhat comedic fashion, which makes it so that it wasn't didn't make me anxious, I guess, to read it. Although at the same time, I guess that sort of feeds into something that I did not like as much. Like while I appreciated a lot of the humor, sometimes it made it so it was hard to read in long chunks. So for instance, something I thought was funny was, for instance, there's this shark-headed demon who's a good friend. Well, a friend anyway of Laszlo's, and he was complaining about how he was on this cruise ship and got cornered by children who thought he was a Pokemon and wanted to capture him, so he was forced to like throw himself overboard. So things like that I find extremely amusing. But then it also has a habit of taking the seriousness out of a situation with a kind of thought pattern, I guess, that you see a lot in its type of humor. So for instance, when Laszlo was thinking about magic, where he was thinking that, okay, so maybe this person has these abilities and this other artifact brings it out of them, or, is it the artifact that's really powerful because this person is using it? And then he compares that to the chicken or the egg problem, like which one comes first. And then he thinks about the fact that he would like an egg sandwich or something. Like it's a kind of stream of consciousness thought pattern where you move from something serious to this whole chain that suddenly makes it into something ridiculous. And while that does create humor at some points, like it also gets a little bit tiring to read a lot of in one go.